I've managed to get a pretty workable warrior. So essentially, they released a gem called Tremor in the last patch, and it's really powerful. So there were some nerfs to like armor break, so you couldn't like totally destroy entire screens anymore. But funnily enough, Tremor actually allows that. Basically, how it works is I use Stampede. That then triggers the first hit, and then Tremor then goes off and does exactly that, right? And then that continues to hit the enemy for, God, a few times. Anyway, so every subsequent hit, because the first hit breaks armor, then does additional damage, and this synergizes really well with these two nodes here, which is damage versus broken enemies. So the other thing we do is we pick up this split earth, which gives us 10% aftershock, 8% in the minor node here, so that gets us 18%. And then we basically look for aftershock anywhere else we can get it. So essentially in our setup, we have a stampede configuration, which if I can find it, there we are. So you have to have 20% quality gets you 30% increased chance of causing an aftershock. So this gets you to what? You've got 18%, plus 30, which gives you 58%. And then essentially you then run an aftershock gem, which gives you another 25%. And then we run our tremors, which gives us another 30% to cause an additional aftershock. So essentially you got over 100% guarantee that you're going to aftershock. And then we synergize this with area of effect nodes. So 40% increased aftershock area of effect. And then basically these nodes up here, so we get 15% area of effect of attacks, and then another, increase of 25% attack area damage. So then we just start scaling area damage. You get another percent, another 8%, another 8%, another 8%. So basically, we're just stacking up an absolute metric ton of area effect, and then we run like resolute techniques. So we don't crit, but we don't need to crit because every single hit from an area of effect hits everything. And then basically all we do is focus on taking up. So we get increased reverberating impacts as well. And then we also get an increase of area of effect from devastation. And then we also get an increase from colossal weapon. You can see the trend here. Basically, we're stacking an absolute ton of AoE and then clearing entire maps. So the obvious things, we have beef because every warrior build needs beef these days. And then we have brute strength, which gives us a ton of damage. And right now I'm doing like T7 maps, which is pretty okay. Our standard hit does 16.5k less, not including buffs and stuff like that. And then our actual like Hammer of the Gods, which we use as our bossing damage, which by the way is only a 4-link setup, is doing 32k with an additional gem. I can get this up to like 50, 60,000, and then it procs bleed. And basically, yeah, we then just like run around and just stampede everywhere with armor explosion, tremors, splinter, and aftershock, and then just do like crazy amounts of full screen clear. So really satisfying so far, as you would have seen in the first B-roll. It's pretty good at just progressing, and I think I am like level 76 right now. I'm a Warbringer, so yeah. I've only got 2 Ascendancies as well at the moment as well, so there's a plenty of like room for this to grow, and I think I'm going to go like Jade Heritage, and then maybe like Renly's Training when I eventually switch this to Giant's Blood later down the track. So we got to get to Giant's Blood, and we definitely do not have enough strength to do that currently. And the other thing that I'm going to synergize into this build, which I've already made, so it requires a pretty hefty mace, but we're actually going to use a Crumbling Maul, and the reason is because then the damage as it impacts enemies is also going to cause enemies to explode on critical kill. That actually, looking at it, is probably not going to work because we need to do crit damage to be able to do that, so we're going to have to take off Unwavering Stance and then scale up some crit. And then basically, yeah, that's going to give us an additional amount of damage. And if we're doing crit multi-bonus, then potentially we could do face melting damage. So eventually we're going to switch this to a crit-based build as we build it out and like tackle like, T15s and stuff like that. And then, yeah, that's basically it. So that's the key mechanics of the build. We've got like a lot of armor on this build too. So we have like crazy amounts of armor. We're overcapped for the most. We need chaos res. We've only got about 1,989 life, so we need a lot more life, but we don't have issues with mana sustain or anything like that. As an overall, like, I'm able to take on pretty much most things and at least take one hit, and then basically just rear back. It is a bit slower than other builds, but Also, you don't have to hit too many buttons, but pretty much when I'm mapping, I'm really only dodge rolling every now and again, and then I'm just literally stampeding, and then when I hit a boss, I'm hitting Q to drop my Hammer of the Gods, and then that's basically it. Really, really simple stuff. Okay, so for gearing on this build, right now, just basically a helm with, you know, as much resistance as you can get and a lot of armor where you can get it, and life. I've got intelligence on mine, you don't need it because this character doesn't really need a lot of int. A weapon, so the weapon I'm using is about 500 or 538 max DPS. It has a little bit of attack speed, but right now I don't really need accuracy rating because I am running like a pretty crazy, you know, or unwavering stance setup. But we do need a better weapon. So this weapon is really good for right now. It's pushing me through maps. But yeah, and this is the biggest thing about the warrior. You just have to keep getting a better weapon, keep getting a better weapon, keep getting a better weapon. Amulet. I've got a lot of spirit, a lot of life on my amulet, a lot of regeneration and all attributes. Quite frankly, I don't know how I'm going to upgrade this amulet right now because it's like everything but one roll is perfect. And, you know, we're looking at pretty decent rolls too. Like there's a decent amount of T2 and T1 rolls. There's like one T8 roll there. Actually, they could be better rolls. We've got a T6 roll. So eventually when I find something similar to this, I'll switch this out. Chest piece, really kick-ass chest piece. So nearly 1200 armor and resistances, everything, all the good stuff. It could have more life, but at the end of the day, you know, the rolls are pretty decent. So I'll take it. And we have rings. My rings aren't very good. Right now, they're just basically for resistance where I can find it. Same with the other ring. I will eventually switch these rings out. I need rings with more strength and more resistances down the track, but right now this is doing the job and getting me near the max cap, which is pretty important for the warrior because playing melee, you need resistances as close to cap as possible or over capped. Then I've got my gloves, which again, resistances, some fizz damage, life. These aren't like perfect gloves or anything like that, but they're definitely good enough to get this build sort of over the line. And then my belt, I actually have a decent belt where I've got a lot of life regeneration, number one, increased charm effect duration, and a good amount of strength as well. So yeah, like a T7 roll on strength, a T9 roll for life regeneration. So yeah, it's like an all-round about, it's pretty good. And that's particularly important because my charm is rarity find charm. So yeah, that's really cool. We might do a video on charms. Charms are really cool. I actually really think there's a lot of utility in them. And finally, my boots. Not the best set of boots that I could get, considering I'm an armor-based character. Could have more resistances, but gives me stuff like 25% movement speed, yada yada, which is really good. Keeps me mobile in the middle of fights. And then my flasks are just like any old flask, and I don't seem to have any real issues with sustaining flasks these days. They're pretty sustainable. But yeah, pretty straightforward build. Like it's not like crazy gear. It's just like balancing a lot of resistance, a lot of armor, a lot of life, and then big damage weapon is basically all you need to do with this build. Okay, so for skill setups, Mace Strike is pretty much one of our most important skills. So we have Mace Strike with Rage on Hit, Fire Infusion, Heft, and also Martial Tempo. This you may need every now and again when you're like just about to get clapped. Mace Strike's going to come in handy. You can like 4-hit most things and take down most bosses up to T7, and this will continue to, you know, move forwards. Bone Shatter I have when we get stuck, so, and we also need to prime enemies, so these is just a really good skill to just have just in case you need it. So basically we have Impact Shockwave, we've got Heavy Swing, and we've got Close Combat. Stampede is our main like clear skill. So we've got Armor Explosion, we've got Tremors, we've got Splinter, and we've got Aftershock, and we do tons of armor break with this build as well. Then our main like boss killer is Hammer of the Gods, and we've got Fist of War, Lacerate to apply bleed, so 50% chance to apply bleed, and Exploit weakness. So basically this takes the advantage of we break the armor with Stampede and or Mace Strike, and then we exploit that armor break with our Hammer of the Gods. So as long as we want to like fully break the enemy's armor and then smack them with a Hammer of the Gods, and that'll almost like 2 or 1 hit kill them. Then beyond that, Herald of Ash, we've got Clarity, Vitality, and Cannibalism. So we get a lot of recovery, which is why we sustain, you know, our survivability in maps pretty well. I do have Leap Slam in the build as well, just for Holy Descent for Consecrated Ground and Magnified Effect, so we've got a bigger impact area. And then Time of Need I've got in hiatus because I don't have enough spirit, so at the moment, don't really need it. Infernal Cry I've got there, you could use it, but I don't really need to use it. But if you do, this does give you a bit of extra damage. And then Scavenge Plating, which gives me more armor, and then Persistence. So that the skill effect being up for longer means we stack more Scavenge Plating when we break armor on enemies, which gives me about 800 to 1,000 additional armor. It makes me pretty tanky. So yeah, that's it for the gem setups. This will be in the Mobalytics page as well, so you'll be able to like basically see all this setup, and I'll put a link to that in the description. Okay, so my page is a little bit different on my pathing tree than probably other people out there, but I only have 2 Ascendancy points so far. This build is horrific to try and do in the Trial of Sekhmet. It's just too slow, so we're going to have to farm Ultimatum to do that, unfortunately. Now, beyond that, we're going to start with the melee damage nodes, come down, we're going to get Reverberating Impacts early on, and then we want to come down early on, go through Sturdy Metal, Relentless, and then basically pick up Devastation. For a period, I did level with Mass Rejuvenation, and this just makes it easier to get through the campaign, because quite frankly, Warriors is grueling. You can tell me all you want about how easy your run was. I reckon you're full of crap. And yeah, Warrior is just hard to level initially, but the payoff is really good at the end. And then basically you come down, you grab Blurred Motion. This is going to give you increased accuracy initially and also increased attack speed, which is what we really want it for. And then you come down and grab Cruel Methods. This is going to give us Break, 40% increased armor. And then into Colossal Weapon, Carved Weapon, and Overwhelm. This is all just going to give you increased damage, increased accuracy, which thinking on it, we don't really need right now, but we'll keep anyway. And then increased area of effect. Then we come back down, we're going to grab our Singular Purpose. It gives us increased damage. Aftershocks, Beef, up into Blade Catcher. We want to come up and grab Resolute Technique, and I start building up into Impact Area and Impact Force, and we grab Prism Guard as well. This just gives us overcapping for resistances. And then we come back down, we want to grab Crushing Verdict, and we want to grab all these sort of nodes to give us increased Armor Break and Pylon. And then these last 2 damage versus armor nodes as well, which gives us quite like 100% increased damage against enemies with fully broken armor, which is a pretty big buff. So armor break's still very strong. Then we come across, we grab Made to Last. This gives us 15% physical damage prevented is recouped as life. And then we come down and grab Split the Earth because we want to get Aftershocks and this Mace Aftershock chance node as well. And then finally we go down and grab Brute Strength because you basically need it on every build if you intend to go to Giant's Blood. Now, when we get to Giant's Blood, we're going to be really tanky. And that's going to be awesome. And then Ascendancy-wise, right now, you grab Anvil's Weight first up. This just gives you a ton more damage from Armor Break. And then Imploding Impact, so you can break enemy armor to below 0, which allows you to do like 2 stacks of totally broken armor, which hits like a truck. And basically, then we're going to grab Jade Heritage, and we're going to grab Renly's Training. By the time we get Renly's Training, we should be switching to Giant's Blood, and that's going to allow us to run a shield on this build, which will make me almost unkillable to a degree. And that's pretty much the build. It's actually a really straightforward build. I found Armor Break and the Warbringer to be significantly easier to level and play through the campaign than I did the Titan. The Titan's all about stun, whereas this is all about, you know, Armor Break and Armor Explode and stuff like that. I find Armor Break just to be a more reliable mechanic, but, you know, each to their own. Anyway, if you like this type of video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel, the Twitch, the Twitter, or the X, and anything else that I've got in the description below. As I said, I'll have a Mobalytics link for this as well below, and I'll be doing progress updates for this. I intend to take this to T15. And then I'll circle back and do minions. I want to do like a Titan minion build with brutes next. And I want to see how I can make that work, because I'm adamant those stats are potentially global, which may apply to minions. But anyway, I will see you guys in the next video, and have a good one.